It seems like what's kind of happening in the Lower Mainland and kind of your experience is that it's like ethnic people have power in numbers.
Yeah, we do. Definitely do. And I think again, because our parents might be a certain way, or maybe we've grown up a certain way, or maybe we've given ourselves a path in terms of whether or not we could be racist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think people grow up thinking like, oh, only white people can be racist, brown people can't be racist, or Chinese people can't be racist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these kinds of attacks or saying these things are racist. And they are microaggressions. I sometimes I'll catch myself thinking to my friend, he's white, right? He's fairly sheltered, right? But he's never been at all in any way microaggressive, giving me microaggressions or giving me microaggressions ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll have days where I'll say things like, I was talking about how he had an Indian dish, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be first off to go, where's the dish from? And I'll get to the restaurant and get this.
Right.
And I'll like, why do you get from there? That's crap. Or he's like, oh, this dish is so good, then I'll eat it. I'll be like, no, the hell are you talking about? And I say it so subconsciously, and I don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I do it in a manner to point out what I believe to be his ignorance. But now that I've thought about it, I'm thinking, man, he's actually just trying to explore different kinds of food.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm invalidating his attempt.
This is really interesting, Sabi, because for the most part, my interviews have been people talking about how they've experienced it, and it sounds like you're the one who's perpetrating it.
I'm perpetrating it, exactly. And I honestly think a lot of people of culture do that.
Yeah.
And I think we give ourselves a pass because we somehow think that, because we are of color, we can't be racist or we can't be judgmental. And maybe it's done in a manner where we feel that a person of color or a person of different culture should understand our culture completely. And maybe that's why these aggressions come out. But in reality, someone just trying to, I'm giving an example of food, but just trying to try your food or attempting to understand a food culture, that's someone opening themselves up, making themselves uncomfortable so they can understand culture. Okay? And instead what we're doing is we're invalidating their attempts to do that by throwing them down.
And I guess my question for you is, because I haven't actually been able to ask a perpetrator, is what's happening for you when you're making the comments, or when you actually, obviously at the time you probably don't realize because you probably didn't have this language or really think about it too much. But can you recall like what was happening for you? Like when you say like, oh my God, I hate white people food, or oh, it's so bland, or let's say like, I'm not sure what other kind of things that have happened. What's going on for you internally?
Honestly, with the white people food thing, I think that's just the thing, ignorance. Like, generally when I go out to eat food, I go to Cactus Club, I've been to Cactus Club before, right? And I always find that I don't like the food there. And I don't like the food at certain white restaurants. So when I go to like an Indian restaurant or a Thai restaurant or a Vietnamese restaurant, or I go down to Brisbane, I go to a Chinese restaurant, I generally love the food. It has more flavor, like in my personal opinion, it has more flavor, it has, there's more diversity of ingredients, these kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it ends up being just an opinion. But when I term it, when I give the term white people food, it turns it into a microaggression. If I were to maybe phrase it differently, if I were to say, oh, I don't like the food at Cactus very much, or I don't like the food at these restaurants very much, I prefer to go to this restaurant or this restaurant, then I think it would be more racist. But I think my intention is to say something along those lines, but it always kind of ends up as a crass generalization in an unintentional way. And
so you're saying that you have better experiences at ethnic food places. Does that have anything to do with like socially what's happening too, or is it just the food?
No, I would say more so is just the food. Okay. But I think maybe internally, I feel like maybe on a subconscious level, I feel like I'm more cultured than others. And when I have my white friend who is not really out of the box and is very conservative in his approaches, and I see that he's having a hard time with these things, maybe I just try to give him a hard time as a friend. But in reality, it's coming out like this.
Right. So by saying, or like, can you explain what you mean a little bit more by giving him a hard time?
Like, it's like, I'm trying to show that he's ignorant, but in reality he really isn't.
So it's almost like you're trying to, if he's not going to take the time to educate himself on ethnicities and cultures, you're going to do it. You're going to make him do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Or if I don't feel like he's doing it enough, right? Like he's trying one Indian place. I mean, again, for him, I think it's a really big reach for him to really keep himself out of his comfort zone. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, you have one Indian restaurant? Really? That's ignorant, or maybe that's what I'm thinking in my head. But in reality, he's probably really trying to go out of his comfort zone and make an effort. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know if any of the other interviewers have said this, I really think that us as people of culture, we do that very often. And I don't think we recognize that in ourselves.
And do what? Kind of educate people?
If we see someone who doesn't know very much about a different culture, we automatically assume it's out of ignorance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's wrong. I think people's experiences dictate who they are. And if someone doesn't know something about a certain culture, it doesn't mean they're ignorant. Just they haven't had the time to learn it, or they haven't been around enough people to actually learn those things. Mm-hmm. And if someone is actually trying to make an effort within their capacity, I think we should really appreciate it. We shouldn't say that, oh man, he went to that really, like, one restaurant a lot of people go to Vidges. I don't know if you know what Vidges is. It's a restaurant in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And this guy, he took Indian food and presented it in a more French manner. And, like, if someone, is going out of the comfort zone, but is going to a restaurant that's more catered to a Caucasian group, I still think we should appreciate that. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be like, oh man, you went to the whitest restaurant? What the hell is wrong with you? Go to Surrey, right? Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be saying those kinds of things. We should appreciate people's efforts to go out of the comfort zone and try to learn what they can about other cultures, and maybe accept that and then further educate them if we can.
This is kind of a tough question. What was that, sorry?
Have you had these kinds of experiences?
Well, it seems like you're talking more about a reverse racism, like kind of like the minorities are racist, like the white people. And so,
and honestly, I think it's much more common and prevalent than we make it out to be.
Yeah, well, I think this is a very unique experience because I'm interviewing people from different geographical locations. So my experiences, for example, are generally I've been the one experiencing microaggressions because I'm surrounded by people who are white and just have never really felt racism. They don't even know that what they're saying is actually kind of racist. But it sounds like with you, it's like you've grown up around a really like mixed cultural, geographical area, and white people are the minorities. And I'm so curious that I wonder if white people feel like how I felt being surrounded by, right? If you kind of get what I'm saying.
That's because I was reading your questions. I'm like, they probably feel the exact same way as we would have, right? I mean, have you ever felt brown people say that you're not Indian enough?
It's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this research, is because I find that as Canadian Indians, we're on this fine line of we kind of always we're always expected to be more Indian in this setting. We're expected to be more Canadian in this setting, and then we're always doing this dance.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, my experience, again, I haven't felt any, very many. I mean, there's one small instance when I was a kid. But since then, I have not felt any microaggressions from white people. Funny enough, when I go to India, I feel more there. I went to India in December, and it felt like people weren't accepting me as an Indian person, which is really, really weird because I've grown up here being very proud of being not necessarily Indian, but being Punjabi and being immersed in my culture and learning about my religious and cultural histories, right? Mm-hmm. I'm very educated on the matter. But then I go to India, and suddenly I feel like, oh man, people don't think I'm one of them. I don't feel like one of them. Or I think that I internally feel different from them, and they internally feel like they're different from me. So, like, where do we fit in, right?
And what was that like? Can you tell me an experience that you had when you were in India and someone kind of othered you, and you were like, oh, I guess these aren't my people, but
no real specific experience, I would say. Mm-hmm. But there was maybe it was an internal interpretation, I'm not sure, but there was an air of difference. Mm-hmm. Like when I would come in, people would look, I felt like internally that people were looking at me a little bit differently.
Right.
Or maybe I'm thinking like I would walk into like a plane and people would kind of look at me a little bit differently, and I don't know if that was them judging me or not, but that's how I interpreted it.